At the end of this video, my guest, Xalavier, says something that's probably going to change the entire way you're thinking about your game. I know it changed the way I think about making indie games. And by the way, Xalavier Nelson Jr. is the creator of Strange Scaffold Games. He made a game called Clickholding, I Am Your Beast, El Paso Elsewhere. And he has a totally different way of thinking about game development. And that approach is, well, I'll give you a hint. It's small.
I mean, I talk to a lot of students. I'll do guest lectures and interviews and so on. And one of the things I say is, well, if you have a game jam that does well, like, don't spend the next 6 years on it. Your next game is going to be the best game you make, and the next game, and the next game, and the next game. So you finish it. You finish it and you move on. When you're pitching a game, yes, you'll run into trouble if you aren't at whatever's the arbitrary scale a publisher decides is the only thing that will make money right now. But when you run into that situation, like, you go in with the game that you can survive either making or pitching and put no more into it. And people are like, oh, okay, but what if I put like just another like week into my pitch deck and I make it like really interactive and has cool transitions? It's like, no, you're a father of two. Make the pitch deck in a week. Put together, if you can't afford to put together a demo, don't put together a demo. And make the situation you survive. If you've got a friend who never picks up their phone, if they have never responded to a text in less than 72 hours, don't start an indie studio with them. Like, I'm recommending high practicality to approach a world of nonsense.
I see. I wonder what it is about game developers, indie game developers, and also publishers, where they feel like they don't have to do standard business practices like every other industry. Well, restaurants in particular. Restaurants are really difficult to start and be profitable. So what you should do is, I don't know, find make a chain that you know is proven. Right? So, or at least start small, start catering to your friends because they really love your food. And I think I've talked about this in a previous podcast where it's like, if you've got that small prototype that works, you make really, really good beef stew and you can cater it to your friends and then just scale and scale and scale. You can do it slowly over time until you actually have enough money to start paying rent for a place and an actual restaurant, an actual building. But with indie games, it's like that mentality isn't there. The mentality is, I'm just going to go all in for 3 years and hopefully it makes its money back. I think I learned that I was doing this all wrong. I think I learned it from Jonas Tyroller. I don't know if you know who he is, but he made a game called Thronefall. He works with a lot of the Grizzly game guys, and they have a very practical way of making indie games. It's like they do like 5 to 10 prototypes, and then whichever one performed the best, just on purely on the loop or like a simple mechanic, then they pick that one and then they move forward. It's like this sort of scientific method approach.
That's also what Free Lives does over in South Africa. People are like, man, Free Lives doesn't miss, and it's like they do dozens and dozens of game jams a year. And only when a project gets massively validated and they know exactly how they ship that game. Like, they also, even if a game jam does great, they don't start production on the full game until they know the road, like what the scope will be and how to finish it. And then they release that game. And surprise, it does well for them basically every single time. Yeah. But it is, as you said, it's very reasonable. And weirdly enough, when you try to do reasonable things in games, you sound like the crazy one.
Yeah. You know, it's something like my dad was and I have a question to you about your business model, but really quick, my dad was a CPA when I was growing up, and he started his own CPA practice, and the way he did it was he started in the smallest basement. The rent was like nothing. And he slowly made enough money and built and built and built. And then he built a building, and then he was running, he had a team in the building. And notice how he was making money while building the thing, right?
I mean, Supergiants is a great example where like they always did they make big leaps, yes, but they didn't make Hades as their first game. And when I talk to an indie or to a student, especially someone who's starting, they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna make something like Hades." I'm like, Hades is the product of 10 years of making games.
Yes.
That's why
Yes.
that's how they have money to make Hades.
Uh-huh.
How they have expertise to make Hades. That's how they understand
Right.
that what they have with Hades is even special and what's special about it, which is why they're able to make Hades 2 in early access such a success, where you see sometimes that sequel, especially in indie, statistically, we see that it does not do as well as the original.
Yep. Yep. And I just looked it up. It looks like their team is like 20 people. So it's I don't know if that was the case during production initially with
It
Hades.
certainly wasn't the production on Bastion.
Right. Right.
And
How big was that team? Let me see here.
I think it was something like 5. Like it was a
Wow.
much smaller team.
Yeah. But regardless, it says 7 people, but that's Google's AI. But you never know if it's correct. But 7 people, so that's a big team, for an indie. It's bigger than my teams have ever been. I just want to encourage everyone listening to treat your game like a normal business. It's like make that small minimum, just a minimum viable product, and see if you can make money. See if you can make money off of a $2 game on itch.io. See if a prototype actually works, if people respond to it. Or it's as simple as posting a screenshot on Twitter and it's like, do people seem to like it? If they don't, then maybe you shouldn't go all in for 3 years. So my question to you is, do you approach game dev that way?
I mean, for me, one of the big things, and I'm very thankful for this in hindsight, was I always at every step of my game dev career asked myself what I needed out of this. So started as a games journalist. I went into game writing because I was like, this fulfills more of my soul. And then I went into narrative design because this fulfills more of me. I don't want to just be a writer. Then I was like, I don't care how good the story is. That involves the expertise of a lot of people, actually. What I care about is the game coming out. So I multi-classed into production and biz dev, ended up running a studio. And that's all, and this weird mix of skills I have and all the things I do now are a product of at every step intentionally saying, does this give me what I need? And is this sustainable? Can I keep doing this? And what I'd say at this stage for me, how I make games is I never want to start a game that I can't survive finishing.